yeah, 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 yeah. You're about to lose me. Just like that, just like that. Just like that, just like that.
Welcome. Hi, guys. Welcome to my channel. My name is Emmy from Emmy Evolving. If this is your first time joining me, thank you for finding me. If this is not your first time, thank you for coming back. So, live on all platforms. This is getting fun. Seriously. It's becoming real fun for me. It is. Oh, no. Hold on, guys. Okay. It's starting to become really fun because now it's like all my peoples are together, right? All my peoples are together and we can just have a whole bunch of fun on all the platforms. So today I'm not going to be doing a conversation like we usually do with cards. Instead, I'm inviting all of you to just start asking me whatever it is that you're curious about, esoteric information, Akashic records information. You can ask me, I'm not doing personal readings, but you can ask me about all sorts of ancient stuff. If I have knowledge about it, maybe I'll answer. maybe I'll answer. Most likely I'll answer. So ask me whatever you guys want. People have been asking me questions kind of behind the scenes, privately. They'll send me messages and ask me all sorts of different things. They'll ask me questions in the comments of the videos, especially on TikTok. And I'm horrible at answering. I am. I'm horrible at commenting, and it's just one of those things. So I figure this is a good opportunity. How long are you planning to be live so I can remind you? I would say maybe like I was gonna say 30 minutes. Like about 90 minutes, 90 minutes, hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on um how much this conversation goes, how much people ask me. I um, one of the most common questions that I get from people is how can they tell where their frequency is? There's a lot of different ways that you can figure that out. Um, where your mindset is, the type of foods you eat, where your emotions are, things like your sensitivity to sound, to light, your sensitivity to other people's emotions, to your environment, things like that. There's so much information online that you can begin really looking into, and that will help you to determine where you are in regards to resting frequency. Adrian asked, is the 12D shield building technique still the go to for spiritual hygiene? No, unfortunately, that was outdated quite a few years ago. Quite a few years. It doesn't. It doesn't do everything that needs to be done because of the different types of shifts within the collective consciousness, within the planetary template. The 12D shield building technique is now something that kind of it will help to prime your field. It will help to surge, a reasonable amount of energy that can help to rejuvenate. It can help you as a starting point for your spiritual practice, but it's no longer the go-to. The person who made that technique, the video specifically, I'm sure she has quite a bit of information that you can find to see exactly what her go-to technique is. I love her work. I love her work. I don't want to mention her name because people be crazy. They've been attacking her as much as they've been attacking me. I'm serious. I'm serious. I saw she had released some information where it's like, gotcha. Okay, so it's not just me then. It's not. It's not. She's experiencing very similar things that I've been experiencing. I've been extremely anxious past couple of weeks. Anything specific going on right now? So, Sandra, yes, there's absolutely a lot going on right now. If you go ahead and look into the Schumann resonance, I'm sure that's going wonky. I haven't looked into it, but with the way the energy feels to me, I'm absolutely sure the Schumann resonance is going buck wild. Wait, you know what? Oh, I can't. I can't. I was like, let me look at that up. I can't because then if I start looking stuff up on TikTok, it's going to do some really wonky stuff to my audio. But the Schumann resonance, I'm certain it's doing something right now. There's a lot of electromagnetic shifting. There's stuff going on with the ley lines. Ley lines are like the dumping ground of energy. They're not necessarily a good thing, but they're also not necessarily a bad thing, right? It just depends on how it affects you and how you can harness it. So there's things going on, shifting going on within the ley lines. That's affecting people's entire like morphogenetic template. Because of the laws of reciprocal reflection, whatever happens on the planetary template will then be reflected within your personal microgrid template. And that is heavily affecting some people. In addition, there's a lot of parasitic activity, massive uptick in parasitic activity. A lot of the atmospheric modifications. I have to be careful how I word these things because of YouTube. They don't like me, and even TikTok as well. I'm now shadow banned on TikTok. That didn't take long. Uh, I mean, it took a little bit longer than what I was expecting, but yeah, I'm shadow banned on TikTok as well. It's because I give you guys this type of information. So there's a lot of aerosolized particulate release that's happening. I know, fancy words. I wish I could. So all of that is causing quite a bit of forced acceleration of your ascension mechanics. So a lot of people are going through emotional upheaval, returning of toxic patterns, toxic character traits, things you thought you've worked through. A lot of releasing of old traumas from their holding places within your fascia. Your memories are not actually stored in the brain. There's no specific structure that's been found by scientists, by medical professionals, that they can identify definitively as the place where your memories are stored. There's a hippocampus, which can help to kind of categorize and retrieve memories, long-term memories. It's somewhere that handles short-term memories, yes, but long-term memories, they don't know where it is. It's in your fascia, it's in your body. Your whole body is like a memory stick. So with all of the forced ascension mechanics that's happening, the memory stick is being accessed and things are being released. When that happens, people begin to experience energetic detox, which oftentimes the physiological symptom presentation is very, very similar to the flu. Body aches, postnasal drip, runny nose, headaches, you know, um, disrupted sleep, changes in your eating patterns, things like that. So there's a lot going on in regards to energy. Um, there is life after the holiday. Yes. I'm not really big on the holidays, to be honest. Like every day is a holiday in my home. We just celebrate each other. Is there a way we can protect ourselves? Sunshine, what are you What are you needing to protect yourself from? Are you speaking in regards to energy? Are you asking in regards to ascension mechanics, collective experiences? If you clarify, I can better answer. Protect yourself energetically. I would highly recommend that you consider taking my morphogenetic fundamentals workshop. I'm going to be announcing a date for that soon. That's where I teach you the basics, like the fundamental principles of the energy work that I do. And it's a very easy, very easy program to learn. It uses a lot of like technical terms, but I teach this program to children, young children, and they can defend themselves efficiently. People don't realize that a lot of the different energetic patternings that they experience, they have a say in that. And what happens when you don't realize that you do, in fact, have authority over yourself? You have a tendency to experience certain degrees of fear, which that's understandable. Fear, anxiety, self-doubt, and that gives passive permission for an aggressor to access your field. People need to begin working on their auric shields, making sure that they know how to maintain that. A lot of the things that are being taught are not things that actually sufficiently um, give you the ability to defend your space. A lot of the information, I'm talking 90 something percent of the information that's being widely spread on social media, it's inaccurate and it's giving you a false sense of security, unfortunately. I know people get mad at me about my stance on Reiki. Nothing wrong with the practitioners. So this is not about me bashing practitioners. I'm speaking about the system itself. Not only is it a flawed system because it only reaches harmonic universe one, that's dimensions 1, 2, and 3. That's very surface level. It at its core, at its root, it's a draconian system. So it was already pre-planned to be released so that anyone who does Reiki or has Reiki done on them, backdoor entry is allowed. And the equivalent of that, I like to make the analogy, it's the equivalent of taking your garage door opener, writing your address on it, and then going somewhere downtown, some inner city space, and just handing it to some random person on the street. Will they go to your house? We don't know. Well, when will they go to your house? We don't know. Will they use that garage door opener to gain access to your home? We don't know. We don't know. It depends. So not everyone that gets Reiki will be accessed, but absolutely everyone that gets Reiki um, will have that backdoor entry code placed within your template. It doesn't matter what type of Reiki. It doesn't. It doesn't matter what type of Reiki. So the system that I teach, it's information that I was not taught. It's information that I was born knowing. I didn't have an awakening. I like to teach my students how to access energy down to core levels, meaning you can cut through all of the distorted codes and begin repatterning your own morphogenetic template to the degree that you can affect even physiological, emotional, mental, beneficial changes for yourself. Uh-huh. Teresa, yes. Yeah, the both. Yeah. Oh. Were you there last night, Teresa, when I was singing my my gospel songs, my Jesus songs? Yell the boeth, I know you are near. I shouldn't laugh about it, but what is your viewpoint on Reiki versus energy work and healing? Well, is there a difference between Reiki, energy work, and healing? For a lot of people, they basically all of those terms are synonymous with each other. They kind of like are interchangeable. So it depends on the person's personal definition of what Reiki is, what energy work is, and what energy healing is. So there's different modalities. There's not just Reiki. There's pranic healing. I think there's like quantum touch something. I'm really not very I'm not very well versed in all these other different types of energetic systems. I'm not allowed to familiarize myself with it. For some reason, my soul thinks it will taint my perception. I'm serious. I'm not allowed to read those things. Oh well, but there's quite a few different types of energy work that is done, and um, my awareness, I have not yet come across energy work or energy practitioners outside of my own program that can reach the levels of frequency that I teach my students to reach right from the start. So, Reiki masters, they're still accessing only harmonic universe 1 frequencies. We have 6 harmonic universes at this point. That means there's 18 dimensional levels of consciousness within this planetary system, planetary template. And if you're only accessing dimensions 1, 2, and 3, I mean, that's really basic level. That's not going to really do anything. I'm being completely honest. That's not really going to do anything. Now there are some people who I don't know any, but I know there has to be some people who have a natural ability and they learned, a more formal type of energy work system like Reiki, but they have this innate ability to reach higher levels of frequency. I'm certain there are people like that who exist, right? The system itself cannot reach beyond third dimension. What I teach my students, even with the basic fundamentals workshop, the morphogenetic fundamentals workshop, and there's no prerequisite for that. I teach you how to access 12th dimensional frequency to work on yourself right off the bat. That's a 4-hour workshop. By the second hour, you understand how to access 12th dimensional frequency. You can't access lower than 12th dimensional frequency to affect change. In order to reprogram, to repattern the standing scalar waves, it must be 12th dimensional frequency or higher, or you will still have distortions within that code. It's a stair step creation. And so anything below 12th dimensional frequency, it gets compressed. The lower the frequency, the higher the degree of compression. It's like the equivalent of sending a video from an iPhone to an Android. It gets compressed, the video quality, the audio, all of that. It gets compressed and it's moving blobs, moving pixels. You're not going to get the true quality. So it's the same type of thing. Let's see. Let me scroll on YouTube. What is a second degree Arcturian? So Arcturians, they don't really do a hierarchy. It's kind of like they're all equal, and then they have elders. The elders are the ones who have had the most experience just because they've existed the longest, right? A second degree Arcturian is someone, it's kind of like, I am full-blooded Filipina. I have a relative who is Filipino. One parent is Filipino, and the other parent is like French or Irish, something like that. I don't remember. Caucasian. So that would be a second degree type of Arcturian. So it's like you have one space of removal from like a full filtering. That's what I meant by second degree Arcturian. So it's not your primary filtering, it's your secondary. Okay, let's see. More questions. I'm liking these questions. Let's see. Do you recommend a way to stabilize your frequency when you're pescatarian? You could use root veggies. That's a very grounding thing. Um, if you look into a pescatarian diet hybridized with a paleo diet, a lot of the paleo foods are things that are very grounding, and it will help to stabilize your frequency beautifully. A lot of like truly paleo type foods are foods that help to anchor high frequencies, but not bottom you out. So, pescatarian, paleo type diet, that would be a really, really beneficial type thing. You think I should make a gospel album? I'm pretty sure I'm not going to. Can you go in and out of the degree in which you can heal? What stops it or pauses it? Um, well, okay, if I'm understanding your question right, Shalina, going in and out of the degree in which you can heal. So that's kind of like not being able to maintain your frequency. You can, most people do go in and out of that degree of frequency, level of frequency, where they're able to self heal easily. And part of that has to do with your mindset, your emotions, whatever you've taken in and assimilated into your system. So that can be thoughts, it can be emotions, it can be energy, it can be chemical in nature, exposure to environmental toxins, things like that. It could also be the foods that you eat. It could be things that are dermally absorbed, like lotions, toiletries, soaps, those type of things. So, depending on the load of toxicity, whether it's mental, emotional, chemical, that's what's going to determine your ability to maintain the degree of frequency that will continue to sustain your healing process. I hope I made sense. What stops it or pauses it? Toxicity of any type. So, depending on the intensity and severity of the toxicity, that's what's going to determine if it will slow down your healing, pause your healing, completely stop your healing, or completely reverse the healing you've already experienced. It just depends on what you allow yourself to be exposed to. And toxins are not just chemical. It could be a toxic relationship, a toxic friendship, toxic conversations, toxic thoughts, self abnegating thoughts, toxic perception. So it's really up to the person. Whatever condition that existed that gave rise for that diseased state to come to full fruition, if you return back to that state, the disease will return as well. If you completely alter that, you remove that factor, then it's not going to be able to sustain that disease state. It will begin to correct itself and remain corrected. So it's definitely something that needs to continue to be maintained. I'm vegan. I was going to ask the same question. Oh, about how to stabilize your frequency. So, veganism is beautiful for people who have lower frequency. That doesn't mean you're inferior. It just means your frequency is at a lower state. You're a higher vibration, lower frequency. It's the oscillatory rate that exists within your morphogenetic template. So, if you are of a lower frequency, that's your anchor point, then veganism will help your frequency to boost up. And that's beautiful. The goal is not necessarily to have the highest frequency. The goal is to stabilize yourself where you are naturally anchored. So, for people who are already naturally very high frequency, veganism is not sustainable. It alters your perception, it makes you very much unrelatable, and you will struggle to relate with other humans. It places you in a state of elitism. And I know this because this is what happened to me. I was vegan for 6.5 years. Your body can't sustain it when you're extremely high frequency. It creates an acceleration in your molecular compaction rate. That's your aging process. That is how your body begins to deplete all of these very necessary components, nutrients, minerals, and all those things. It very negatively impacts the health of someone who is extremely high frequency naturally. And being extremely high frequency naturally does not make you superior. It's just your anchor point. So with the veganism, gosh, that's hard. Again, I would recommend maybe nuts and seeds, root veggies. You have to be careful because a lot of vegan foods, and this is from my experience when I was vegan, it contains grains that are highly processed. So that's the thing you need to look out for the most. Because whether you're high frequency or low frequency, that's irrelevant when it comes to whether or not you are neurotypical or neurodivergent. Those who are neurodivergent, and depending on the degree of your divergency, that's what's going to determine how sensitive you are to the chemicals that are infused into our foods. So it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm just talking about processed foods. I'm also talking about fresh vegetables, fresh fruit. I'm talking about oats, all sorts of different grains. It depends on the degree of saturation of glyphosate. Glyphosate is a big no-no for neurodivergent people. The more you are neurodivergent, meaning if you have different like comorbidities, different conditions, in order to be neurodivergent, you would need to have something about your neurological function that is different from a neurotypical function. You have ADD, ADHD, you have depression, anxiety. If you have learning disabilities, those type of things, depending on how many of those conditions you have, that's what's going to determine how neurodivergent you are. So the more of those conditions you have, the more susceptible you are to being genetically injured by glyphosate. And you can look at the work by Dr. Stephanie Seneff, her work on, what was it called again? Synergistic toxicity. Synergistic toxicity is what it is. It ties into a lot of information that is about hyperpermeable bowel. That's called leaky gut. It begins to poison your body because xenobiotics are being allowed into your bloodstream. Things that don't belong in your bloodstream are entering into your bloodstream. With the synergistic toxicity of the work of Dr. Stephanie Seneff's work on synergistic toxicity, what she's talking about is she found that heavy metals that are present in the body for various reasons that YouTube will not allow me to talk about, heavy metals that are present in the body, they don't contain the appropriate ionic charge to cross the blood-brain barrier. So science says, well, no, that's not it. But when glyphosate is introduced into that, it creates a cage around that heavy metal molecule, giving it the appropriate ionic charge to cross the blood-brain barrier. And that's how people end up with all kind of different neurodivergency type stuff. People are already predisposed to developing neurodivergency because of their genetics. And when you factor in the epigenetics, the things that you're exposed to, that's what's going to determine the degree of neurodivergency you actually end up with as a person. I think that was that too much info. I love these subject matters. So let's see. I'm going to alternate between YouTube and TikTok for questions. How can I regain access to all the energetic abilities that I was born with and are such a deep part of me? I used to basically radiate magic. It was extreme. How to unblock it all? That's a self-love journey and a shadow work journey. You've partitioned those things because of a shame program that you were forced to adopt by the environment you grew up in. It has to do with childhood wounds. If you can address those things, you can then stand a greater chance, a greater potential to access those things again. Another way, which is not a favorable way, trauma-induced secretion. Depending on the degree of trauma and the force of rate that is used to accrete that frequency, to bring it in forcefully, it will force those pathways open, tearing them open and allowing them to dilate so that you can begin accessing it. It's a very fucked up process. It's a fucked up process. It will wreck your perception of yourself. You'll rebuild, but it's fucked up. It is. It is. It's powerful. It's a very, very powerful, efficient way to regain some of those abilities, but you can't choose. You can't pick and choose which abilities you're going to reactivate, and you can't initiate those cycles. Placing yourself in drama is not the same as a trauma-induced accretion. Trauma-induced accretions, they blindside you. You will not see it coming, and it will wreck your whole entire world temporarily. Temporarily. Some people refer to it as a dark night of the soul. Very, very efficient, but very, very destructive, painful, and just, yeah, very hard. Very, very hard. What would you say is the most common filtering for people on Earth right now, if there's something you've been seeing more of? I've been seeing a really good mix of all the different types of star seeds. I have. A lot of people are resonating at frequencies that indicate they're Pleiadian. There's a lot of people that have filtered through both Series A and B. I've seen a lot of people who have filtered through booties. I like that. Booties, Lyrans. Just quite a few. It's a really nice mix that's happening. Most of the ones that are drawn to me are typically Arcturian or Lyran. So I don't think it would be fair for me to say that they're the most prevalent. I'm aware they're the most drawn to me. So when I look, and because sometimes I'll get a sense, I'll get a feel during live streams of the types of star seeds that are present. It's a really good mix. And I'm also including the people who don't comment. So it's a very healthy mix. I haven't been able to eat any foods without getting so sick. So I have not been able to eat in 4 days, and I'm not even hungry. Sounds like you're in an ascension cycle. If you've already ruled out any type of medical abnormality, just listen to your body. Listen to your body. It's probably something where your body is kicked into a healing cycle. And when you're eating food, all of your body's focus is going towards digestion. So, whatever healing that's needing to take place, any repairs, regeneration, that's paused. So long as you're digesting, all of that other stuff is paused. And sometimes what the soul will do when it's time to begin actual physiological, emotional healing, you'll lose your appetite. That happened to me years ago, and I stopped eating. Like, I could not eat at all. I couldn't get food in my mouth. And it was about 14 days before I could eat. And there was nothing medically wrong with me. I was frail by the end of it. I think I was like 90 something pounds by the end of it. So, yeah, but there was nothing medically wrong with me. I wasn't hungry. I couldn't force myself to eat. If there's nothing medically wrong, just listen to your body. But you have to make sure there's not something medically wrong first. Okay. Let's see. Going on TikTok. Are mirrors not good to have in homes? Mirrors are mirrors. There's ways to lock your mirrors. There are ways where you can assert your dominance within your space, making it less favorable to enter your space. I don't think we should be afraid of mirrors. Yes, it could be used as a portal for entry, but if it's locked, nothing can enter. Would I keep a mirror in my bedroom where I sleep? No. Is there mirrors in my bathroom and there's no door to my bedroom, between my bedroom and my bathroom? Yes. Are the mirrors huge? Absolutely. It's the whole wall, 2 walls. Is anything gonna come through that mirror? I wish a motherfucker would. I wish a motherfucker would. There's consequences for that. So, will things come through the mirror? Mm-mm. Not if I can help it. And there have been times where I've gotten up in the middle of the night to go tinkle, tinkle. And I've seen things on the other side of the mirror. I'm just like, stay on your side, bitch. It stays on its side. I'm not scared. You come through, we gonna fight. We gonna fight. Then I'm going back to sleep. So no, there's nothing wrong with having mirrors. I think the actual root of the problem is people's lack of belief in their authority over themselves and their space. If you don't own the space you occupy, just like in the animal kingdom, you have to fight for your space. You have to assert that dominance in your space. There will be things that will challenge you. You can't fake energy. You cannot fake energy. It will not lie. So, the most powerful thing that people can do, rather than worrying about mirrors and locking mirrors and stuff, be very secure in yourself and know you can handle whatever is brought to you. And whatever is brought to you that you can't handle, it's going to teach you how to handle it the next time it comes around. Really just owning your power. That's the most powerful thing you can do. Let's see. Do I do what? Any tips on how to safely develop astral projection? Nope. No. I've taught astral projection. In this environment that we're in, y'all do what you want to do, but yeah, unless you are very well versed in energetic warfare, yeah. With astral projection, yep. Astral projection projects a portion of your consciousness into fourth dimensional consciousness. Fourth dimension is where the grunt demonics are. That's their band of frequency. You're going into their home turf without your physicality involved. Some people do not belong in the ghetto, in the hood, in rougher neighborhoods. They don't understand how things work in rough neighborhoods, right? I've lived in rough neighborhoods. I feel completely fine in a rough neighborhood. I feel completely fine in the ghetto. I do. I feel perfectly fine. Why? Because I have some street smarts. I do. Yeah, I know what to avoid and what is okay. So, unless you have that degree of spiritual smarts, it's not worth it. People do it because they're curious, which I get, but it's not worth it. The potentiality of getting a parasitic latching from doing that, extremely high, extremely high. Maybe 2, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, go astral travel all you want. Like I said, I taught people how to astral travel safely. Nowadays, besides, we're already in the process of converting from 6D consciousness to 7D consciousness. Why you want to step down? 4D is already all around you. Most people are already seeing 4D. You know those shadow people videos? Those are 4D folks. They're recording astral. But, it's up to you if you want to travel it. Do I have tips on how to safely do it? Not anymore. Unless you can really hold your own energetically, like you can fight for yourself, it's not worth it. At least in my opinion. I can't tell you what to do. If your curiosity is really pushing you to experience it, I hope you do it safely. How do you know if you're a star seed? A lot of people who are star seeds, they have a tendency to just have this innate sadness. Like, you're not depressed. You might think that you're depressed, but you're not. It's this thing of just like always a sadness in you, feeling like you don't belong here. No matter how welcoming a group is, you just know you're not part of the group. right? You often feel like you're just being tolerated. Some star seeds, depending on the filtering and their resting frequency, they'll affect electronics when they are in proximity to it. Like years ago, before I began actively cultivating my ability to control the energy I harness just naturally, I naturally pull in energy. I've exploded, I don't know, like three microwaves. So for a while, there was this long-standing family rule, not just for my immediate family, but for everyone. I'm not allowed in the kitchen if someone's using the microwave. I don't mean to do it. And when I say exploded, I'm talking about boof. And everyone's like, what the hell just happened? The microwave exploded, literally, and it won't work anymore. It won't work. So things like that. Some people will report like when they go under a street light, the street light will turn off. Some people will be able to feel when your phone is pinging the tower or right before a phone call comes in or a text. Like you can feel it vibrating through your auric field. Star seeds have all these like really weird, but it's not weird. They think it's weird experiences, just a sense of knowing. Usually, like children are drawn to you, especially if they're star seeds as well, which is most children being born at this point. Animals are drawn to you. You're probably a very precocious child. A lot of star seeds, depending on the filtering again, they have a tendency to not speak as much. They're more introverted. Other star seeds are extremely outgoing, like, bro, relax. I can't social like this. And again, it depends on the filtering. Some other star seeds, some of their memories are left intact. And so they have like really vivid imaginations, but they're memories coming back to you. So there's a lot of different experiences that can indicate that you are in fact a star seed. One of the most beautiful things your soul will do when you finally reach the level where you can handle knowing that you part alien, because most people will freak out. Your soul will begin giving you nonstop information about a specific alien type. Part of the reason that I know I'm Arcturian or was filtered primarily through Arcturus before being born here. At one point, this was several years back, quite a few years actually. Someone said that I look like a freaking alien. I didn't know what the alien was, but I just thought it was just like, I was such a troll back then. And I put this image of the alien up as my profile picture on Facebook. And one of my friends thought that I was like cosplaying an alien. They were like, you look really good. I was like, shut up, that's an alien. They thought it was me for real. And I was like, y'all are rude. And then next thing you know, all the videos on YouTube were about Arcturians, and I'm not into aliens. I'm just not. I'm not into alien subject matter. But all the videos that were being suggested were about Arcturians, Arcturus, Arcturus, Arcturus. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so annoying. Stop showing me this. I don't like this subject matter. And then one day I was talking to someone. I was already doing the work that I do. One day I was talking to someone and they had mentioned something like, yeah, no, your energy's Arcturian. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, yeah, you don't know? And I was like, wait, Arcturian, why do you say that? And they're like, well, because that's why you're able to heal people the way you are. Arcturians are healers. And I was like, excuse me? And then they were like, yeah, that's why when you do some of the work you do, like when you freeze the parasites, everything gets really cold for the person. Arcturian energy is very cold. And I was like, oh, interesting. And so then I went back and I watched those videos, and they were basically describing childhood stuff, characteristics, all kind of different things. And I was like, okay, so my friend wasn't joking. I am an alien. So sometimes your soul will do that. It's a very beautiful, beautiful thing. Let's see. The sun energies have been rocking the Schumann resonance lately. New moon today will act like a full moon. Ooh, I heard about that. Are many mountains fossilized trees and beings? And if so, how did they get that way? Ooh, KJ. KJ! Okay, so we're entering into the woo-woo, okay? Just so you guys know, we're entering into the woo-woo topics. Yes, many mountains are fossilized trees and beings. Yes. So it has to do with the Nephilim, it has to do with giants, it has to do with the flood, the biblical flood. It has to do with all of the wickedness that happened during like antediluvian times. And with that, all the really large giant trees, they were cut down because the Nephilim were trying to use it to exit out. And that's a huge no-no. They needed to be contained because the large majority of them were abominations due to their behavior and lifestyle. And so all of that stuff happened. A lot of them ended up being drowned and then covered and fossilized. A lot of the trees that were in fact cut down. And you'll see them. They're often categorized as mesas. They're like tabletops. And you'll see if you look at it, there's rings at the top. And then if you look at the bottom, so that was the time when there was so much oxygen being produced because the trees were so large. They were so large. And it has a lot to do with why the trees, although they're still large to us now, are not growing as large anymore. It absolutely shifted the atmosphere and the entire terrain. The whole earth was completely changed by all of that cleansing that had to occur. So, yep, that's what happened. Arcturians can grow anything. That explains all the plants. Yo, my plants, my poor guy, he fucking got sick. Hold on. I can't. I'm so ashamed. I got sick, so they got sick. Look, my poor baby. He used to be bushy like his siblings. You will survive. You're not allowed to die. Okay? Buck up, bro. I told him he's not allowed to die. He needs to buck up. Okay. So, yeah, all of these plants, well, most of them, they were adopted from the grocery store. They're the rejects that were dying. Yeah, they were the ones that were left over and nobody wanted. And I was like, you can't die alone. I will care for you. Yeah, quite a few of my plants. I put them in the shopping cart, and my husband's like, that shit is dead. Get it out of the cart. I was like, I can hear you. Don't say that. And then I bring them back to life. So yeah, I love it. Let's see. Never into aliens, but was shown 3 lions and first ancestors, a crazy astral travel experience. Then started seeing the Lyrans. Yeah, you might have some Lyran ancestry, galactic ancestry. Is Himalayan salt petrified giants? Yo, it's so disgusting. Yes. And Himalayan salt, the way it's processed, and you can look up this information, it often contains some degree of like toxic chemicals. So yeah, I used to put Himalayan salt in everything, and now I'm just like, I'm good. I'm good. Have you ever had a case when a person was harmful to you in a past life, but has been genuinely good to you in another or this life? Yeah, I have. There was a person who we went on a trip together, and I don't know why I asked them to go on a trip with me because I had never met them in real life. We barely knew each other, but my heart just told me like I had to go to a completely different country. I don't do this kind of stuff, you guys, without my husband or children, just like solo. And I had to go with this person. And we were on a trip, an international trip together for like, I don't know, 7 or 10 days, something like that. And and we actually were really good friends for quite some time. Our paths eventually diverged. There's no hard feelings. It's just kind of like, it diverged. And I think the reason we had to go together was because we had to close out that chapter. In that life, we were siblings, and they sold me out to the Spaniards. So I was executed. And I was like, listen, it was the mamas, the baby mamas, our mamas. They was just planting seeds of jealousy. We had no problems until the very end. I forgive you, boo. I forgive you. I know you won't sell me out this time. And yeah, no, it was very healing. It's very, very healing. So that's rare though. That's rare. Um, I will tell you this. For that one case where these memories were coming back to both of us, we weren't talking about it until the very end of the trip. And then it was like, holy fucking shit, these are memories. And that we came to the conclusion together simultaneously. It wasn't a reading, it wasn't any of that. Like, we both realized, like, holy shit. And for that one, I've come across double-digit numbers of people who have had past life history with me, harmed me in that past life, and they're still the same wicked fucking bastard. I'm saying, they still the same wicked motherfucking bastards. Still want to harm. Yep. Still the same. So be very careful with that, okay? It is possible. It is possible to come together in this life to kind of like reestablish peace and harmony. But most of the people who have a past life history with you, heavy emphasis on most of the people who have a past life history with you that you reconnect with in this life, it's so that you can choose what is beneficial for you in this life that you didn't choose in the previous life. Most are that case. So be very careful. Okay, guys? Let's see. Yes, Krista Wells, your comment. Yep. Himalayan salt has a lot of that. YouTube goes crazy if I say things like that. Excuse me. Is it possible that your energy can break glass if you're really upset? Ooh. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yep. It can do some really, really intense things. If you have the capacity to break glass if you're really upset without touching it, you need to make sure that you learn how to harness your energy intentionally. And that is for safety reasons. Okay. You have to really make sure that you learn how to do that. Vapor canopy era, love it. Love it, Teresa. Yes, there was absolutely a vapor canopy because of the sheer size of these trees and the type of environment. Yes. Let's see. That kind of change is rare. Yeah. It's very rare that someone is not still stuck in their same ways from previous lives. This is why, for the most part, I try my best to always remain on the side of like caution. I always try to be compassionate. I always try my damnedest to not be retaliatory in any way. That doesn't mean I won't correct at this point, but I've had enough lifetimes where I've harnessed that aspect of my energy, that capacity, and I've learned from those lives. So yeah, the change is rare. It's possible, but it is very, very rare. Let's see. Um, Street lights go out weekly for me and have for years. Alana, you're probably a specific type of starseed. Um, TVs are considered black mirrors. Any type of reflective surface can be used as a portal, if that's your question, uh, Michael. Any type of TV, any type of reflective surface can be used. I had negative results almost immediately after texting with a toxic person I needed to let go of. Yeah. I'm learning to just stay in my lane with that type of thing. Let's see. How did my family feel about what? That's PK abilities, right? What's PK short for again? That sounds so familiar, but I don't remember what it is. I don't know. I don't remember. Let's see. It was when I was younger, hasn't happened in a long time. Hmm. That tells me that maybe it caused some type of shutdown within you, Blissful. Seeing yourself being able to shatter glass because you were very upset. The resonance of your rage was piercing, and it hit a degree of piercing frequency that it caused the glass to break. And you, to some degree, probably already realized, even as a child, you have a capacity that's unlike pretty much anyone else in your family, unlike anyone else you know. And as a child who's already neurodivergent, it's a very scary thing to experience tangible evidence of your difference. So that often will cause a child to shut down those abilities. Oh, psychokinesis. Yes. Psychokinetic. Yes. Like the eyeballs and stuff. Yeah, it is. It's that type of energy. It's like taking a portion, a small portion of consciousness and using it in a weaponized manner. It's not an evil thing if your use of it is not intended to harm. Not being able to control it is not the same as weaponizing it and using it to harm and dominate other people. And I think as children and even as adults, when we have those types of abilities, it becomes something where we become afraid of ourselves. We become very afraid of ourselves. Part of the reason why I've hesitated for as long as I have to share the full gravity of what I can do with quantum etheric medicine is I understand that I can utilize those abilities to actually harm. If I can regenerate your heart muscle, that means I have a very, very developed capacity to wreck cardiac tissue. That's scary. That's scary. What if I get too angry one day? What if I hurt someone? What if I lose control and I hurt somebody? That's a scary thought, especially people who have those type of highly developed, highly cultivated abilities. They tend to be extremely empathic. And part of that is as your empathic nature is really brought into full fruition, that requires quite a bit of trauma, emotional, sometimes physical. It requires trauma. And in that period of trauma that you live through, uh, it's very common. And when I say very common, I mean, I've never met an empath that doesn't do this. We're conditioned to blame ourselves for everything. So it becomes a very scary thing when you begin to realize how you can affect someone and they can't stop you. That's a scary thing. It's a very scary thing. Yeah. So people have a tendency to completely shelve it, they partition it, they'll completely forget. They're not forgetting, they're compartmentalizing. They don't want to believe that they can do that. They want to ignore it. They want to pretend they're normal. And it becomes something very, very difficult. Part of the reason why I'm like, PK abilities, that sounds so familiar. There was a period of maybe about a year where I was trying my darndest to read as much spiritual subject matter as possible, like how to develop psychic abilities and things like that. It was in the early 2000s. I would say like 2004, 2003, 2004, maybe even 2002, to be honest. And most people will dive into that topic trying to develop their abilities, not me. I dove into that topic because if I learned it, then I could kind of like reverse engineer, meaning I could learn how to turn it off. That doesn't work. That creates a compounding of the issue. It makes it much worse. Much, much worse. So for me, I've been heavily attacked my entire life. That's why my pathways are all capable of full dilation, and I can retrieve memories, I can retrieve abilities and all kind of stuff. And it's a very unique skill set that I have. It's born of trauma, consistent trauma. And with that, there was a period where I figured out how to blind myself. All my clairs are active. That means I can see without seeing. And the things that I would see, especially as a kid, just fucking A. The things that actually exist on the astral. Yeah. Mm-mm. 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 So I figured if I blind myself, then I won't see them coming. I won't see them attacking me. I won't see that and I won't be afraid anymore. And all that happened, the attacks didn't stop. All that happened is it would come out of nowhere rather than me seeing it. That's even more traumatizing. Much more traumatizing. So yeah, the best thing to do if you have abilities is to very gently and very consistently work on reconnecting with yourself and allowing those abilities to just naturally develop. Whatever information you need to help you in the development of those abilities, your soul will bring it to you. It will bring that information to you. I remember in 2016, it was 2016. I've always had the abilities that I have. And in 2016, I was barely becoming publicly visible, but I've been doing this stuff for my entire life. And I remember one day, I'm very skeptical. I'm so not woo woo. I'm very skeptical. One day I just kind of I had a meltdown and I told Michael like, no, I'm not doing anymore. I don't know if you're even a demon. I don't know if the work I'm doing is demonic. You need to prove to me. You need to prove to me that I'm not harming people. I'm not helping anyone else. And so I closed my laptop and I went to bed and I was pissed off. The next morning I woke up fairly early. I went back into our living room where the laptop was and I opened it. As soon as I opened my laptop, window after window after window just opened. I thought I had a virus on my laptop. And it was like hundreds of PDF manuals, like hundreds. And I was like, oh my God, I have a virus. And Michael said you wanted the proof, right? And so the very last thing that opened, so it was on top, was a manual talking about applied biospiritual theories. And it began talking about all the different things that I've known, but I haven't had the appropriate vernacular to be able to communicate what it is. Because before, if you ask me about certain things, I'll be like, well, there's just like this thing, and then it just and you know, people will be like, what? I don't know. But then I was given the vernacular. So you asked me that same question, I'll tell you. Well, you have flashline sequencing that then becomes an entire level, an entire layer. And the next layer, you rotate it by 90 degrees, the axiotonal degree, the spin rate, all of that. That will then, if you keep doing it, it'll create a fabric. And that fabric then becomes your morphogenetic template. You can phase in and phase out of that morphogenetic template and actually exit this time-space matrix in order to harvest and place within an energetic repository and bring it back into your morphogenetic template. And then it can connect to your physicality, which you can then harness it. But you have to make sure those pathways are insulated or you'll burn your flesh. Before it was literally, but it's done, and then you, and then it goes up, and then you, and then you, and people are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I don't know how to explain it, but that was the moment. I didn't read through the manuals. I read through the first one that was on top, and that gave me all the words, and I was like, "Fuck, this is for real? Is this fucking for real?" And that's why I continued with the work that I did publicly. So your soul will give you the information you need to help confirm, to help reassure you that you're on the right path. I dream of apocalyptic like events in my dreams, but the circumstances always has to do with lava. Do you have an idea of what that means? Avi, I would say that there's a high likelihood that you are a precog. You have precognitive abilities. You have future sight. So I hope that doesn't upset you. Krista says, I tend to make stuff disappear when I get extremely overwhelmed. So if there's a mess, I get overwhelmed and I'll start to clean. And if it's something important that's been left out, I will say, I need to put this away because it's important so it doesn't get lost. And I put it away so safely that you will never find it again. So I can absolutely relate. It was horrible for me as a kid. There was a big, dark, scary mass in my basement that would torment me. You know, the things that would torment me, and this is really the root of the reason why I'm so well-versed, just naturally well-versed with parasitic extraction and actually pioneering the field of parasitic extraction. The things that would torment me as a kid were actually principalities. I'm very familiar with their modus operandi, with their mindset, the way they view things. I can anticipate what they will do next because they've done all of that to me already. So yeah. Oh, it fascinates you. I'm glad. You guys have any other questions? How long have I been live? You guys have me for another 30 minutes. Ask away, my people. So the movie Carrie was somewhat real. Yep. Well, I don't know if it's based on factual events, but the potentiality, yep, it's there. It's absolutely there. It feels like we're here to experience the end of this time period. It doesn't feel like a bad. So this time period is not meant to be a negative or bad thing. But when we view things from a negative space, then we will experience it as though it's negative. The way you view your circumstance or what it is you're experiencing, it's what's going to paint your entire perception. So if you view it from a neutral standpoint, then it just becomes an experience. If you view it from a positive standpoint, then it's like a beautiful memory. If you view it from a negative standpoint, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. It really just depends on us. Anything you could tell us to prepare for the upcoming year? If you have the capacity to unplug from the financial system by starting your own business, I cannot emphasize that enough. I cannot emphasize that enough. There is a massive power transfer that's going to occur. It's a financial transfer. If you have the courage to really do it, to go for it, the payout is going to be massive. Massive, massive, massive. But you have to have the courage and you have to prepare it already. Another thing is to make sure that you always have a little bit extra of your staples, especially with edible staples, the things that you normally eat on a regular basis. Just make sure you have a little bit extra, as much as you can, afford. Of course, you don't necessarily have to plunk down thousands of dollars tomorrow. You don't necessarily need to pay hundreds of dollars for emergency food vault. Just have a little bit extra. You're making dinner tonight that requires a can of green beans, get 2 cans of green beans. Wait until, green beans are like buy 2 get 3 free, something like that, right? Just be very mindful of what you have on hand. You don't have to have a large budget for you to be able to have just the basics that you need, right? That's another thing that you guys should definitely keep in your mind. There will be an increase in tectonic movement, leading to a higher prevalence of lava flow. Michael says, shh. Anyways, Leviathans are moving. If any of you are wondering what the hell's going on with all these big waves, they're moving. Not a lot, just enough. So, yeah, there's that. Coastal towns need to kind of be mindful of how the ocean looks. There's a very high probability that all of that will kind of increase. You can also expect quite a bit more of weather modification. You can expect quite a bit more of aerial spraying. You can expect quite a bit more of aerosols. I'm told to stop. Ooh. Krista says, I have most of the stuff to start my own business. I keep getting discouraged for some reason. You're being discouraged because something is trying to instill fear to prevent you from being stabilized when the time comes. You need to do it. If you already have most of the stuff, that means that's what you're supposed to do. Ask your soul for a sign. Should we be concerned about the portal door opened by the Pope? Their wickedness has spread through the earth for as long as it's existed. They opened the door and also, that's a secondary door. There was another door. That's why someone was inside, able to take a recording of his face when the door opened. That's all. They're generating fear in order to harvest what's been released, and it wasn't released from St. Peter's Basilica. What's released is what woke up Leviathans, and it's not just 2. Leviathan is not the name of a being, it's a species. They've released a lot of different ancient things because they're preparing for the return of Lemuria. It's a full-blown conflict that's going to occur. Full-blown conflict. Fuck them. Sorry. I just blurred. I'm sorry. It's just my bad. My bad. I didn't mean for that to come out. Anyways, let's see. I've been given brilliant business ideas and don't know how to move forward. Just do it. Just do it. Atlantis is wicked. It never disappeared. It sank. Their capital was destroyed. Outposts were sank. Atlantis never disappeared. The conflict that we see in the world right now, that is Atlantean dynamic. The way genocides have happened, especially to indigenous peoples, that is fucking Atlantean dynamic. Cannibalism, that is Atlantean dynamic. The cloning of celebrities, viril is actually vuril. That's the name of it, vuril. That's Atlantean. That was genetic modification of a parasitic species. That's Atlantean. If Atlantis wants to rise, I will wreck the fucking shit out of them with my own hands. And trust me, I have the capacity to do so. So, fuck Atlantis too. A lot of the tactics of the Vatican were taught by Atlanteans. A lot of the tactics, I say this as a Catholic, a lot of the tactics, very, very, very reminiscent of Atlantean. Very reminiscent. I'm not saying all Atlanteans are wicked. I'm saying the way the leaders of that civilization played the people. Mm-hmm. See, I always said that the church was formed to keep us in line so we'd follow what they want. Yep. Yes. 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 Mm-hmm. Ooh, loved one. Ooh. My son is 2 and he's starting to tell me he's seeing things. He pointed to something coming through the mirror and I kind of saw something walk by. How can you comfort a child that's experiencing this? First, you need to reassure them that what they're experiencing is the expression of a gift, a skill that makes them very, very special. And that although fear is a very natural reaction if they feel afraid, that they need to remember they also have courage. It would probably also be a good thing to begin teaching them some very basic skills from my system that can give them a sense of empowerment. Children are actually more powerful than adults, much more powerful than adults, much more powerful. So he has a capacity to defend himself. He just doesn't remember yet. My system, it's something that can help jog his memory and he can begin to really defend himself. Like a lot of children will have this fear of the dark. They'll have nightmares where they're in a dark space. Something is chasing them. What I've taught children, turn on the lights. These things are playing a game with you. It's a mean game, but it's just a game. They can't do anything to you. You turn on the light switch and then you tell them to leave. And as I've taught children to do this, their nightmares have stopped. It's stopped. Children are extremely powerful. You need to just keep reminding him. The only reason they're playing this mean game with you is because you haven't yet embraced how powerful you are. They're just bullies. Don't let them bully you, which is the actuality of it. That's the actuality of it. Let's see. When a person makes a series of bad choices they've made many times before and eventually gets breached, could that be considered an inhabitation? Yep. That means they have something parasitic that they continue to welcome in. When they feel low, this parasitic thing will begin to soothe them and they'll begin to listen to those thought inceptions. So they'll continue the pattern of making bad life choices. That's an inhabitation. You will not be able to separate them. Not until that person is so grievously injured by their buddy, their parasitic buddy. And then maybe it depends, but it would have to be their choice. That's not categorized as a possession because it's not a brute force takeover of their auric field and consciousness. They're welcoming it in, they're allowing. Like they're giving some degree of permission for it to come in. Let's see. Are all 5 principalities released yet? I don't know. I stopped keeping track of that because to be honest, I really don't care at this point. I'm just like, listen, we're gonna make it a good world. Release whatever you want. I don't give a shit. I'll kick your demon. I'll kick your demon and I'll chain it. I don't give a shit. Keep your demon to yourself. That's my take on it at this point. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. You know, make it into a game, a funny game, right? Make it into a funny game. One thing that I will teach, I will share that you guys can utilize and you can also teach children. This works for the lower level parasitic type beings, the ones that will, not all, but a good amount of the ones that will try and come through mirrors, the ones that will like stand over your bed and try and scare you and shadow being type stuff. So you can go ahead and you can boop, like little lobster claws. And what this does, when you set the intention, you're actually detonating an electromagnetic charge. It's like an EMP burst. It goes boof, and it's a big flash of light. It's like a flashbang and also a percussive blow at the same time. And you're at the epicenter of that. You're at the very middle. If you set the intention that this will go ahead and extend like a New York City block, that's a good amount of space. Anything that is within that light and percussive zone, it'll be leveled. Once it's leveled, what ends up happening, so its connection to its morphogenetic template is temporarily severed as it gets leveled, right? When it's leveled, because it's immersed in that light, it's a transmutative light. It will tear it apart, whatever that consciousness is, as long as it's below a certain level of frequency, it will tear it apart and return it back to a neutral state. Parasitic things are deathly afraid of that because if you return back to a neutral state, in their mind, they no longer exist because they believe wholeheartedly they're separate from divinity at this point. That's why they go to feed on other things. That's why I've chosen to call them parasites. Anything that is benevolent, like good, nothing that is going to harm you, right? Nothing that wants to harm you. It can be immersed in that and nothing happens to it. It just goes back to a neutral state. That's it. It's not scared because it's like, I'm connected to divinity. You're not going to do anything to me. I'm not doing anything to you. You're not going to do anything to me. So there's no risk of harming that. It's only the parasitic things that get affected. So it's just flashbang. I teach kids just when you see something yucky, you turn on the light. If it's dark, you turn on the light. And if it comes up to you, you just go, just boof. And the kids love it. They laugh. They laugh and they're no longer afraid. If you allow them to witness you, joining them in that space of fear, it validates the fear and it invalidates their courage. But if you have no fear And you don't have to be like, yeah, we're going to beat it up. You can make it into a game. You don't have to teach the child aggression. Sometimes it's appropriate. Most times it's not necessary. If you can turn it into a game and it's like, oh, they're just cheating. Oh my God, what a cheater, right? And the lobster claw makes them go back to the starting point, right? It's a game now. They're no longer afraid. That's how you develop courage in children, helping them to understand this is not something I need to fear because now it's funny. How can you be afraid if you're laughing? You can't. So one of the things I love to do is kind of teach children to find the humor in things, even if it's something scary, right? One of the things I remember teaching one of the kids that I worked with, they were being chased in like a cave, a labyrinth. It was a principality. A principality was chasing them, and so the parents brought me in, and I was talking to the child. I'm very young, I would say maybe like 6 years old or so, 5, 6, something like that. And I was like, well, what's scary about your dream? And they're like, it's dark. I was like, oh, that's it? Just because it's dark? It's kind of scary sometimes when it's dark. Did you turn on the light? And they're like, a light? Yeah. I mean, when it's dark in your room, you turn on the light, right? And they're like, yeah. I said, yeah, turn on the light. And at one point, we're talking, and basically they're like, what if there's no light switch? I was like, you have a night light? They're like, yeah. Well, use your nightlight to find the light switch. They're like, oh, I said, yeah. And then at another point, I was like, you know what would be really cool? If you left a light switch on your chest. I think I could do that. Yeah, it's your dream, silly. And they're like, okay, how would I turn it on? Just like that. Now the lights are on. And so they're dreaming, they do that, and they're like, oh my gosh, it was scary. I saw a monster when the light turned on. I was like, oh, silly, it's a mask. They probably still think it's Halloween. And so the kid's laughing now, right? Because it's not Halloween time. And I was like, you know what you could do? You could take their mask off. I bet they look silly with no mask on. So basically, the kid tore off. He ripped off the face of the principality. He ripped it off. He ripped it off. And he wasn't afraid because then it was a silly thing. It was a very, very silly thing. It was like, chocolate was under the mask. I was like, oh, that's so gross. Did you give him baby wipes? And then they stopped having nightmares. See, when you teach children to fight back like that, where it's not fighting back, it's just you have the authority to do things that can entertain you. It's your dream. Principalities don't like that because now they can't scare you, they can't control you. And yes, everyone has the ability to lucid dream, to control your dreams. I remember being a child and something demonic was chasing me through the house, and I was so freaking scared. And I went to go run up the stairs to lock myself in the room in the dream. And so I skipped 2 steps. I was going to skip steps to run up the stairs, and I got my first foot on like the second or third step, but I couldn't move my back foot. And this monster was right by me. I said, hold on, my foot is stuck. I must have been like 8 years old. And so the monster stopped and was like, hurry up. Like, like, hurry up. I need to chase you. And it's like, no, that's not fair. You have to go back more. So not only did it pause, I made it go backwards. I was like, no, you need to go back even further. And at that point, I was really irritated because I was a total emo kid. And I was like, I don't even want to play this with you anymore. Like, I don't even like this dream. I want a different dream. And then the nightmare completely stopped. You can do that. You can rewind your dreams. You can pause. You can replay, all of that. You're in full control, but you don't realize. The moment you begin really connecting between the self and the soul, and you allow yourself to recognize the degree of authority that you have over yourself, you can begin controlling every aspect of your life easily. Very, very easily. So yeah, try it out, you guys. Definitely try it out. Let's see. Oh, that's so cute. Your daughter uses a lobster claws. Lots of fireworks right now. So I tell her firework bang. Yeah, you can absolutely, however you can make it as fun as possible for your children. Adults can do this. The only thing to keep in mind, it's only a certain level of frequency or lower. And it's a fairly high frequency. It's 12D frequency, but because of the nature of the collective experience right now with the forced ascension cycle, the frequencies of the parasitic things that are really just attacking pretty much everyone, it's in excess of 15 dimensions. So lobster claws are not going to work on that. Most other things, it will work for that. How do you tap into your gifts, especially if you don't know what they are, what it or they are? Um, well, first, it would probably be best to know why you want to tap into your gifts, right? Um, Is it for protection? Are you curious about your gifts because there are negative things that are happening and it's very upsetting to you? Are you wanting to tap into your gifts because you're becoming very fascinated with manifestation and you want to create opportunities for yourself? That's what's going to really determine the ways in which you're going to develop those gifts. The most important thing is being open to exploration, but not taking into your core truth every single piece of information you find online. Because I tell you, like 90 something percent of what you're going to find online is utter bullshit and convoluted and involuted. So you have to use a lot of discernment. You can entertain and explore the information that you're drawn to. There's nothing wrong with that. But to just blindly believe because you read it somewhere and it was written in a way that was beautifully articulated, that's highly, highly detrimental to your journey. I don't have all the info, first and foremost, but you know, it's a very dangerous thing to just like blindly believe and grab and hold with a death grip information that you don't know where the author got that information. And people will say, "Oh, I get it straight from the Akashic records." Okay, but the Akashic records have been infiltrated. They were infiltrated antediluvian times. They were already infiltrated. Uh-huh. Even before the fall of Atlantis, they were infiltrated, they were corrupted, there were false memories inserted into the Akashic records. So that's not reliable. It's just not. So you have to really use your discernment. I think all of us have a very good sense, a very good idea of what is actually for us and what is not. And if you begin to really develop a relationship between the self and the soul, that good idea suddenly becomes actual intuition. And you can know with no doubt, like, okay, I need to stay away from this. I don't know why, but I need to stay away from this. And you're not being a mean person. You're listening to the guidance from your soul. Let's see. Yeah, take what resonates and leave the rest behind. And even with that, like sometimes if I because I always need confirmation of information my intuition is giving me directly. So I don't just blindly believe even my intuition. It's kind of like, let me see real quick. So I'll go ahead and I'll do a search online for some random thing. And usually it'll be like the first link that comes up, and I'll just randomly scroll through it. Oftentimes, I won't even read the whole thing. I'll scroll through it and I'll get a feeling I need to stop and I need to read this sentence or this paragraph. And it's like, confirmation. Okay, fine. I guess it's accurate. That's how I've learned to really develop a trust in my intuition. My intuition is rarely wrong. Rarely wrong. Do I always listen to it? Nope. I've learned to listen more because I've been in really like ugly circumstance because I didn't listen to my intuition. So more and more, I'm like, okay, let me just. What I also like to do for those of you who are more like kind of on the religious side, and there's nothing wrong with you practicing your religion if it connects you with your divinity, practice it. Don't listen to these people who are like, oh my God, la, 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 whatever. Practice whatever helps you to better connect with your divinity. Okay. So sometimes what I used to like to do, but it became inconvenient to carry a book around because I love God. I do. I fucking do. Like so much. I used to carry a Bible around. As a matter of fact, I have my pocket Bible right on my shelf over there. It's a smaller size Bible. And so if I'd have a question, I just be like, I would ask the question and then I randomly will open the Bible and whatever first couple lines I read, that's the answer. So it will either confirm or negate whatever I have the question for. And that worked for quite a few years. Quite a few years. Let's see. Why is it difficult to believe in one's self-worth? Because of all the programs that were instilled during childhood. 100% of our problems as adults stem from unresolved childhood stuff. 100% of our problems as an adult stem from our childhood. So if you can get to the root of what happened in childhood and begin healing that, everything else will follow through. Um, mm, mm, mhm. A lot of us as children, because we're so neurodivergent, maybe you're highly inquisitive, maybe you're very precocious, just not the average type child. It was very difficult to parent that, to parent you. Didn't mean you were a difficult child. It meant that the generation that our parents come from, they didn't have the awareness and the understanding that was necessary to be able to properly support you and nurture you in the way that you prefer. Um, so that can lead to us kind of, questioning our worth, struggling with accepting that we actually do have an innate value. Another thing is that sometimes, even if your parents were very kind and very gentle, very patient with you, uh, most of the children who have all of these different abilities are highly empathic. Highly empathic. Yeah, you're not traumatizing them. You're not allowing anyone else to traumatize them. But because they are so telepathic, they are so sensitive. People with higher sensory perception are highly sensitive, highly emotionally connected. So if they feel your trauma, it's enough to traumatize them. And that's how they become even more empathic. So maybe you're not telling them your problems because you know you're an adult and that's an adult problem. It's not something a child needs to worry about. So you keep it secret from them, except they know. They know how you feel inside. They know what you don't have the courage to tell them. So when my children were all toddlers, and they're highly empathic, they're very gifted, they're extremely neurodivergent. They're actually what I would categorize as quantum divergent. um, if they ask me what's wrong, I don't tell them nothing and pretend like nothing's wrong. I tell them, I'm having a hard time kind of processing something, but right now you're still a little kid and it's not really appropriate for me to discuss adult things with you as a little kid. It's because you don't have enough life experience yet to fully understand it. But I just want you to know I'm going to be okay. I'm just feeling some type of feelings. And that's part of me processing what I need to process as an adult. When you're older and it's more appropriate to share my feelings and my thoughts, I'll be able to do that. But right now, it's my job to make sure that I don't stress you out because you're still little. So then they know, like, okay, she's not keeping secrets. She's going through something, but she's fine. She's just kind of tripping. So they know, right? But most parents don't communicate with their children like that. You know what I mean? We're not taught to communicate with our children like that, to be open in that way. Either some parents will use their children as a kind of like as a surrogate parent. They'll treat them as their bestie. They'll put on their child the burden of all of their emotional traumas unknowingly, or they'll like hide it. They'll say like, it's fine, don't worry about it. Nothing's wrong. No, nothing's wrong, nothing at all. And their child will learn to lie, to withhold information, right? So it's a lot of people don't have that mindset. So I have that mindset because I'm a quantum divergent, and I recognize my children process information the same way I do. I knew when I was information was being withheld. I knew even as a young child when someone's lying. So I don't want my child to feel that, to see me as a liar. So I would speak to them openly, but in an age appropriate way. So yeah. Yeah, the children can feel it. I used to carry mine around too, and yes, I would ask questions and open it up and read. Oh, the Bible? Yeah, I love that. I had a bad dream last night, and when I woke up, my heart was beating really hard in my chest. So I kept telling myself that I was safe, kept repeating, I'm safe, I'm safe. That's good. Sometimes we forget the reality of our degree of security and safety within our life, and we need to remind ourselves, right? Nothing wrong with that. It's good to remind yourself if you've forgotten that you actually, in fact, are safe, you are in control, it's not that serious. I'm calming down, so some of these different um, phrases that can really help you return back to that baseline, right? Let us see. There's a freaking bug. Ugh. Sorry. Yes, death to you. I got it. It was a gnat. Death to you, gnat. Okay. We have the human condition, so sometimes we don't listen. Sometimes I don't listen too. So, it is what it is. Where do the geometric stained glass visuals in churches originate from, and what do they represent? Been obsessed with those lately. Tartaria. They're frequency patternings originally. And then they were replaced with more religious images. They're from Tartaria. Those were not originally religious structures. And you find information on this. Those originally were energy harvesting centers. It would harvest energy from the environment. Tesla's work is Tartaria. It's from that. Do you think TT will ever stop being a slut? Girl. Mon. Do you think Thoth will ever stop being a slut? No. He's like OG demon whore. Demon horrida. I don't think he's ever going to stop. He got issues. My mother taught me how to lie and could feel her and could tell something was wrong. So when I started therapy in my journey, I warned her that I'm a master at telling her exactly what she needs to. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. I wish I spoke this way to my kids back then. I do now, but too late. No, it's not too late, Shell. It's not too late. There were a lot of things that I look back and it's like, oh, that wasn't a great moment as a mom. And I do still when my emotions become overwhelmed with like the regret of some of my actions or words as a overwhelmed mother when my children were very young. I will apologize to my kids. I'll be like, I'm sorry, guys. And for anything that I don't remember that you still remember that you're still upset about, I'm so sorry. My kids be like, we're sick of you apologizing. Like, stop. But I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. And if there's anything that you need to hold me accountable for, I'm not aware of it, you let a mother know. Because I can take accountability even for things that I didn't realize had the effect that they had when it happened, right? So yeah, it's never too late as long as you're genuinely open to repairing, you know, not this thing of I need this and you need to let me say I'm sorry so I can heal. Like, you need to get past it. I didn't know. And it's not to say that you're like that with your kids, but there are some parents that don't realize, like, they don't have to forgive you. And as long as you're not genuine in your desire to heal whatever happened, they won't forgive you, right? You don't apologize to seek absolution from your sins. You apologize because that's your acknowledgement that there was a transgression. It was inappropriate. I should not have acted that way. I'm holding myself accountable. I respect whatever you choose to do from this point forward. If you need more time with me absent from your life, it will hurt me, but I will respect that. And I will keep trying to find a way to bridge this, to be a part of your life in a way that still respects your decision. I think um, if parents can, who have conflict with their adult children, can take that stance and really genuinely mean it. Um, it's this thing of like, in that dynamic, one of you needs to have the courage to establish a new dynamic and not to force or coerce the other to change the relationship, but to just be like, hey, I want us to exist in a different way. I get it. If you still want to stay in that space, I can't join you there, but I will wait here indefinitely for you to join me in a new dynamic where we can talk. And, if there's things that I'm still doing, you have the ability to communicate with me like, hey, you're doing the same old stuff. And then I will need to hold myself accountable. And it's not that you're going to get your way and I'm going to kiss your ass. No, it's this thing of, now I'm understanding how it affects you. So now I have to pause and reassess, like, what's a different way I can approach this so we can still communicate, get my point across while still being respectful of our new dynamic. It's not this thing of, you need to say sorry and do whatever it takes for your kid to this and that. And because then that's kind of manipulative. You know what I mean? Like, you will do whatever it takes to force them to agree that now you're okay. You're an okay parent. Like, no, it's kind of like, okay, um, I understand that there were things I didn't understand back then, and I'm working on my ability to understand the effect I have on you. And if you participate in helping me to understand in a respectful way, that will facilitate me being able to shift and pivot. And that will also help our relationship shift and pivot into a healthier space. But it might even be necessary to let your kid know, like, I can try all I want and I will absolutely try, but if you don't give me a chance and communicate with me, um, it's going to be much more difficult. I want us to know each other in a different way at this point. If they're an adult, I want us to know each other in a different way at this point. I don't want to continue the same things that we did in the past. It has to be genuine. Like, you might be the parent, but your kid's not dumb. Parents need to understand, um, just because you're older doesn't mean you're always wiser. Sometimes when the kids have gone through so much trauma, they develop a degree of wisdom that surpasses their parents, unfortunately. And if that's what's happened, then you need to let them kind of take the lead in certain situations so they can help you to better understand the effects of your words, your perception on them, on your environment, and then you can make whatever adjustments you feel is necessary. There's not one person that's completely right and one person that's completely wrong in any circumstance. Both are co-creating and sustaining an unfavorable dynamic. So it's going to require both to shift that. And sometimes it takes one person to commit to a shift, a change, while respecting the other person's need for more time to match that commitment. It's difficult. It's easy for me to say these things. It's difficult for most people to apply because there's a lot of hurt ego coming into, you know, the situation. You're hurt because you're probably like, as a parent, like, do you understand how much I sacrificed for you? Yeah, but do you understand that's what parents are supposed to do? And yeah, sometimes kids won't be grateful until they learn and grow and mature enough to understand on their terms just how much you gave up for them. Right? So I'm 46. Oh no, 45. No, I don't fucking know. Shit. I don't know. What's the year? 2024? I'm 43. Fucking shit. Hold on. I'm not mathing right. Hold on. Just let me get out my handy Dan. It's 2024, right? 2024. I'm 45. So I'm 45. And even in just the last couple weeks, I'm realizing even more about the gravity of some of my mother's decisions as my mother. Um, how unfair my perception was for so long, right? How unrealistic and unreasonable my expectations were for much of my life. And no, I was not an entitled child. Um, I didn't behave in an entitled way, but I was extremely righteous, very, very righteous. I am like Benjamin Button. As a child, I was very rigid, very much rules. You have to stick to the rules. You have to follow protocols, just very, very rigid. And my expectations were very unfair, very, very unfair. I had a very clear um, idea of what the ideal mother is supposed to be. And it was nothing like my mom. My mom was phenomenal. Phenomenal woman. Phenomenal. It took me reaching my 40s to understand, like, oh my God, I was such an asshole. I was such an asshole. Like, dang. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. And she loved me no matter what. It takes time for gratitude to blossom and the fruit to ripen. It does. It takes time. I used to get so angry in my righteousness, and I get so frustrated. And so I'd cut her out of my life for periods of time. It'd break her heart. I didn't give a shit. I'm just like, you can't act right with me. You saying crazy shit to me. No, nope. I don't want you in my life. Did that quite a few times. Yeah. My mom would say crazy shit. Yeah. She's autistic. I'm autistic. I got it from her. And she was truthful in a way that was just like, what the fuck did you just say? Right. So I would do that. I'd get sick of it and I would do that because I didn't understand that she wasn't trying to be hurtful or harmful. She was just being blunt. And yeah. I know most parents after a certain point, they'd be like, you know what? Fuck this shit. Let that girl go. Who gives a shit? Not my mom. she would keep trying. She would keep trying. She would try and come over. She would try and be part of our life. She everything that you see in me that you find beautiful and kind and compassionate, I learned from her. I learned from her. And I didn't learn it like, oh my God, that's such a beautiful part of my mom. Much of my life, it was like, why are you so weak? Why you let people fuck with you? Why you let people do things to you like that? Why do you just keep giving? Like, you know, these people are using you. Why? And it took many years for my tree of life to grow blossoms, and even more years for those blossoms to become fruit, and even more years for that fruit to ripen into the gratitude that was appropriate for my mother. I used to think she was weak, and it made me so angry. And I realized only in the last 7 months of her life, what kind of strength does a woman need to never be moved out of her softness? I can't even imagine. The type of commitment to love despite the adversity, the rejection, the hurtful words. To love with no expectation, just genuinely wanting to be part of my life. And in the last 7 months of her life, I took over her care. She was in hospice. And she used to very intensely and consistently criticize me as a mother. I look back now and I see she just was worried in ways that were not reflective of my reality, but were a projection of hers. My father's a narcissist, raging narcissist. He'd find ways to control her, so she never stopped working. She worked 16-hour shifts, 2 full-time jobs at 2 hospitals. 6 to 7 days a week she would work. So she always had her own money. Very successful woman, very, very financially successful. And I remember my family was still extremely young, and I forewent every luxury to be able to stay home and raise my children and be a stay-at-home mom. I'm very lucky to have a husband that supported that. And he worked and worked and worked. We had a very simple life, beautiful life, but simple. We didn't do any fancy vacations. I didn't buy expensive things. My kids always had everything they needed. Just a very beautiful life. Very simple, though. I remember one time she was over my house, and I used to have back problems. I used to herniate my disc real bad. She was over, I was cleaning, and my husband had just gotten home from work, and the commute for his work was like 2-3 hours. So it's like 7 or 8 at night. As soon as my husband gets home, he gives me a hug and he sees like I'm not in a good space. He tells me, go lay down. I'll finish cleaning. I will cook. I will give you a massage. And my mom was there. So I'm laying down trying to prevent my back from herniating the disc. And my husband goes upstairs. He changes his clothes. He comes back downstairs. He goes, let me give you a back massage first, and then I'll clean and I'll cook. And I'm like, okay. So he's massaging me, and my mom says to me in front of him, you're so lazy. Oh my God. Your husband just got home from work and he's giving you a massage? You didn't even cook yet. And I just looked at her like, I'm your daughter. And my husband says to her, she's my wife. I'm supposed to take care of her. I was so angry. I was so angry. I was angry because it felt like my mother didn't love me. In that moment, that's how it felt. I told her, you need to go home. You need to go home. So she left. She went home. And I cried. But I look back now and I realize that was her way of encouraging me to work. And she wanted me to work just in case I was hiding from her that my husband was just like my father. Because she hid it from everyone. I look back now and I see those things that she said that hurt my feelings and made me feel so unloved. She was trying to prevent me from having the life that she was living. She wanted me to have a job and be financially successful so that my husband would never treat me the way she was treated. And to really solidify that understanding of how skewed my perception was, when I was taking care of her for the last 7 months of her life, one day we were joking around because she was bedbound and I was hanging out with her. She starts crying. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you crying? Remember, she criticized everything I did as a mother. Everything. As often as she could, she criticized everything. So in the last 7 months, at one point, we're hanging out and she starts crying. I'm like, what is wrong? Why are you crying? Where is this coming from? Because we were just laughing. She says to me, the one thing, her biggest regret in life, she wishes she chose to be the kind of mother that I am. She wishes she knew me and my siblings the way I know my children. And that she sees my children will always have memories of me being present, while her children will only ever remember she was never home because she was at work. I was like, no. I would not be the person that I am if I didn't have you as my mother, the way that you were and the way that you are. And there is gratitude in my heart that I have the mother I deserve, especially when I didn't understand. Because all those years that I didn't understand the ways that she was loving me beyond my comprehension, she was the mother I needed the most. One that never let go, one that never gave up, one that always waited until I was ready to allow her back in. We have the mother we deserve, but we don't always understand what it is our mother is gifting us. For some of us, it means we have a mother that we consistently have adversity with because it's cultivating portions of your character that are absolutely crucial for you to be able to fulfill the purpose you are here to fulfill. It's not always a pretty or easy or loving, kind journey with your mother or with your father. My father is a raging narcissist. I have the father I deserve. Because I tell you, if his narcissism couldn't break me as a child, couldn't corrupt me, couldn't turn me into a bitter, nasty, horrible, wicked person, which would be understandable if I did. What I learned from him and his gift to me is that nothing in life will ever break me. That is a given. I will not be broken and I will not be held down. I couldn't be broken as a child. I will absolutely not be broken as a full-grown woman. And that is a gift my father gave that no one else can take away. I have my opinions of him, but I am grateful I have the father I deserve. One that taught me about my own strength in ugly ways. That's okay. I'm no longer angry, nor do I hate him. I just know his rightful place is not in my life, with no access to my children. I will not repeat those patterns. You will not get the opportunity to do that to my kids. And that's okay too. There's no need for an apology. I'm not waiting for one. I experienced everything I needed to experience with him to cultivate the parts of me that needed to be cultivated. People ask me, Emmy, how did you become so fearless? Who said I have no fear? I was immersed in it for so long, I learned how to function through it. It doesn't cripple me. That's the only difference. It's not the absence of fear. It's the lack of willingness to allow the fear to cripple me. So I tell you guys, you're afraid, do it anyways. Do it while afraid. Make it happen. Make it happen. That was a gift that I was given. That awareness, that was a gift I was given unwillingly by my father. You have the parents you need to become the person that you are. And if you allow yourself to accept that, your journey and your healing and your expansion of your awareness of yourself and your purpose, it will facilitate that. The problem most of us are struggling through is this preconceived notion that we should have had this, we should have had that. They weren't enough of a parent. They were blah, 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 blah. They're just regular people. My mother helped me learn that. She's always just been a woman struggling with her trauma, struggling with the trauma she carried for her own mother. I've always been unfair in what I expected of her. It took me many years to see that. Many, many, many years. When I was able to see that, I was able to heal it. You can't heal what you refuse to see. You can't. If you don't know the condition of your wound, you won't know what needs to be done to truly initiate healing. You cannot stitch shut a wound that's gangrenous. You need to clean the infection out. You don't allow it to fester. That's a recipe to complicate the wound. And a lot of the things that we are being taught by spiritual people, by armchair psychologists, even by therapists, it doesn't give you the clarity that's necessary to understand the wound that you're dealing with. Most of us are afraid to understand ourselves. Why? Well, I mean, what if I'm a monster? What if you're not? You know, one time I was speaking to our congregation in the Soul Sanctuary, and the conversation got very deep, which it often does. It gets very deep in the sanctuary. We talk about really intense things sometimes. Excuse me. And I remember saying, I had to be raised by a monster so I could learn how to fight them without becoming one. You wonder why you have that type of parent? I can handle any type of personality. Why? The home I grew up in was severely polarized. Extreme narcissist, extreme passive empath. I had to be raised by a monster to learn how to fight them without becoming one. I will never be my father. And I can never be my mother. But I can pull the most powerful parts of the two people who came together to create me and become the greatest expression of both their strengths. That's a choice. I wasn't raised to think this way, to see life this way. That's not how I was raised. I was raised in a war zone. Why? I used to ask, why? When you grow up in a war, the one thing your heart will seek for the rest of your life is peace. That in itself is also a gift. I will never exist in a war again. Not within myself, not within my work, not within my community. That is unacceptable, and I will not allow it. And I would not value my peace to the degree that I do if I didn't live the first part of my life knowing nothing but war. Life is exactly what you need it to be. And you need to begin clearing the way you see yourself, the way you see your history, the way you see all of these things. Own your life, own your journey. You know, there was a content creator. He has a considerable reach. He's a fairly popular person. And I had conflict with this other female. Well, that's a lie. She had conflict with me, which is typically the case. And I'm just like, what the fuck? She had conflict with me. And so she's kind of spreading it around, trying to get other larger content creators to side with her. And I'm just like, whatever, whatever. I don't fucking care. And I'm not sure how it started, but it was this thing of she didn't want me on Facebook because that was my primary platform years ago. And I had a considerable reach there. She didn't want me on there. So I'm just like, okay, fuck Facebook. I'm just go to YouTube. It's not even worth it fighting with you. Just whatever. So I leave. And then she got upset because we were friends. You don't want me here, but now you're mad that I left. Like, what the fuck? And she makes some posts like, some people change their friends like they do their underwear. But you said you didn't want me here. You're telling people that I'm a fucking bitch. And then I just like, so I walked away. Like, and this guy decides to insert himself and make a post about me. And he says something along the lines of, I have daddy issues. I'm assuming because she was aware. I'd spoken to her before about how, like, yeah, oh, yeah, no, my father's a narcissist. And so she told him. And then someone made me aware that he posted that, which it's like, you don't even know me. You're not even part of the circumstance. Why are you inserting yourself? So rather than saying that, I went ahead and I spoke about it. I absolutely have daddy issues. My father is an abusive narcissist. Yeah. He never beat me, but I watched him beat my siblings mercilessly through my entire childhood. So I can't stand violence. That's why if you threaten my physical safety, I will fuck your ass up. I know how to fight. He made sure. He made sure I knew how to fight for real. He consciously chose to weaponize me, my father. He wanted to make sure that I could handle any situation life brought my way. I know how to grapple. It doesn't matter how fucking big you are. I'll choke you out. You physically threaten me, I go into survival mode. I will choke you the fuck out. It's not a game to me. I've witnessed violence my whole life. It's not a game to me. That's why you can't even play like that with me. You can't be physically aggressive with me playing because that will trigger survival mode. Just leave me peaceful. You can joke around with me all you want. Don't get physical though. I shared that. Did you think I was supposed to be ashamed that I was in a DV home growing up? Is that my sin? I'm supposed to be ashamed that I experienced maltreatment as a child? That's a part of my history. I'll never be ashamed about anything I experience because everything I experience helps to ripen my understanding of my proper place in my life and my divine destiny in the world. He couldn't say shit after that. If I remember right, he even took that post down. Got embarrassed. He got embarrassed. He should be embarrassed. He should be. Absolutely. What kind of male does that? You insert yourself in a problem between two females? Well, that's dumb. You don't even know what's happening. That's really dumb. Whatever you're afraid of people finding out about you, you're handing them a weapon to form against you. There's nothing in my life I will ever deny if it's part of my history. Yeah, that happened to me. Why? Is there something you want to learn about my experience? I'm not going to be ashamed. Are you kidding me? Do you know how much I learned and grew from these things that I experienced in life? Why would I be ashamed? I don't need to be. Some people would say that's courage. I say that's acceptance. I'm simply accepting what I've lived through in order to become who I am. And I'm not ashamed of me anymore. And I will never return to that. If you guys allow yourselves to get to a space where you can not just accept yourself, but embrace who you are and the journey you've been on. That whole saying of no weapon formed against me shall prosper, that's what it's about. Whatever you try and hide from yourself, from the world, that is a weapon you are allowing to be formed and used against you at some point in your life. So don't. Own everything. Acknowledge every part of your journey. And then keep growing. You're not just a byproduct of the things you've lived through. The things you've lived through have helped to cultivate certain aspects of you. You are who you choose to be. And if you choose to be a conglomeration of these different characters that were created and impressed upon you by other people, then that is what you will be. I just choose to be myself. If it's not enough, go find more. If it's too much, go find less. If you resonate with me because it's like, damn, I'm telling your story, welcome home, brother and sister. Welcome home. This is the space where you are invited to simply be yourself and become comfortable being yourself. I have no expectations aside from us all existing with a mutual level of respect right off the bat. And that's it. This is a space where we are a community. You are not followers. I am not the leader. That's fucking weird. Okay, that's fucking weird. We are a community. And we come together almost every day, usually in the mornings. It's not usually this late. It's usually in the mornings around 10 or 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we just have these deep introspective opportunities. I hope you guys enjoyed chatting. Time to go. It's time to go. Hi, Erin. Is there a portal date in January for fire ceremony? Probably the 11th. 11. 111. 111. Probably then. It depends on my health. Most likely then, though. 1-1. I can't be on a live that long. Not yet. Not yet. So, guys, I'm going to see you guys again very soon. If you're not already following me, please go ahead and do so you can find me again. But remember, you are not a follower. You don't belong behind me, following after me. Yeah, I don't belong on a pedestal. You belong right beside me, shoulder to shoulder, right along with everyone else, walking together as equals. We're going to change the world, guys. How? By being. Why? Because I'm sick of this world. People are not nice to each other. So let's change it. Change it just by being ourselves and inviting people to see us, being who we are, with no fear, no shame, no hesitation. I love you guys. I'll see you again very soon.